From professional ghost hunters looking to capture evidence of the paranormal to skeptics looking to debunk the sightings, haunted hotels are a very popular attraction. All over the world, there are hotels with stories of guests and employees hearing and seeing strange things. This is Melissa After Midnight, and tonight we will discuss the stories behind 6 famous hotels from around the world. Let's start in England, London to be specific. The Langham Hotel is often referred to as the original Grand Hotel. It is a luxurious hotel built in 1865. It sports roughly 500 rooms and suites, and several ghost stories. The most haunted room is said to be room 333. One day, a newscaster from BBC reported waking up to see a floating apparition. It was dressed in fancy Victorian clothing and was missing part of its legs. As the man attempted to talk to the spirit, it stretched out its arms and floated towards him. Terrified, he ran from the room and told his co-worker the story of his encounter. Together, they went back into the room, where they could see the now faint specter slowly fading into the dark. There have been other reports of the same ghost in the same room. However, those reports only happen in the month of October. Sweden is a beautiful country located in northern Europe. The Tofteholm Herrgård Hotel was built in 1389 as a private manor to a nobleman. The manor changed owners many times throughout its long life. In the 1700s, it was owned by either a count or a baron, depending on who tells the story. The nobleman had a daughter whom he arranged a marriage for. However, a peasant boy named Mats, who worked in the stables, was madly in love with her. Distraught and broken-hearted, the poor boy hanged himself in one of the guest rooms on the daughter's wedding day. He was buried on the property, and the grave is now known as the Mat Stone. He is said to have remained in the manor even after death, appearing behind people, mostly women, and placing his hand on their shoulders. He isn't harmful and is a fairly benign ghost. Despite that, many people are still scared of his touch. The Taj Mahal is a famous and beautiful mausoleum, housing the tombs of Mumtaz Mahal, also known as the chosen one of the palace, and her husband, the Emperor Shah Jahan. It is an amazing structure and is known as one of the 7 wonders of the world. Sharing its name, the Taj Mahal Palace is a hotel that was built in the early 1900s in the city of Mumbai. It is thought to be one of the finest Eastern hotels and houses between 560 and 600 rooms, 44 suites, and 1,600 employees. It is the site of several ghost stories, the most famous of which being the ghost of one of the architects, W.A. Chambers. According to the architecture rules of the Hindu religion known as Vastu Shastra, the main door of the building should always be built facing one of these directions, north, east, or northeast. Rumors state that Chambers, while going on holiday to England, approved the blueprints of the hotel. However, the blueprints had the hotel facing the wrong way, going against the ancient tradition of the Vastu Shastra. Feeling so guilty of his carelessness, he supposedly jumped to his death from the 5th floor of the hotel. Despite his death, he is said to have never left his creation, wandering the halls of the Taj Mahal Palace, checking that the staff are doing the right work. Some of the staff members even claim that one of them was knocked unconscious by Chambers' ghost when he was trying to steal some of the hotel's silverware. It seems that his ghost is still quite protective over his creation. Let's head west to our next location, Victoria, Canada. Opened in 1908, the Fairmont Express is one of Canada's oldest hotels. It offers guests a luxurious stay in beautiful rooms and spa treatments so good they have won awards. It also offers something else: ghost stories. One of these ghost stories is that of Francis Rattenbury, the hotel's architect, who was murdered by his wife's affair partner, their chauffeur, George Stoner. Stoner was found guilty and sentenced to death, but was released early to fight in World War II. Rattenbury's wife, Alma, committed suicide soon after her acquittal. She had stabbed herself several times in the chest. Francis Rattenbury is said to haunt the hotel of his design. He has been spotted walking the halls of the building, sometimes with his cane. He thought of the Fairmount Empress to be his greatest achievement and never left, even after his brutal death. South of Canada, in the United States, lies a hotel so famous and haunted that it inspired the great author Stephen King to write his 3rd novel and first bestseller, The Shining. It is located in the idyllic town of Estes Valley in beautiful Colorado. The Stanley Hotel gets its name from Freeland Oscar Stanley. He was sick from tuberculosis and, depending on who tells the story, either traveling to the town in hopes of getting better or searching for a beautiful place to die. He did, in fact, get better just after one summer in the valley. Grateful for the fresh air and sunlight that he thought cured him, he made plans to build a grand hotel in the area. Opening in 1909, it saw decades of success until the 1970s, when the hotel had fallen on hard times, seeing years of neglect and no investments. It was saved, however, by the author named Stephen King, who stayed in the hotel with his wife Tabitha for a weekend. Stephen King states, "It was the last day of the season. Everybody was leaving and nobody was coming in. And we said, 'Can we check in?' They were the only guests of the hotel that trip and stayed in room 217. That night, King awoke in a panic, having a nightmare of his young son being chased down the halls of the hotel by a living fire hose. After the frightening dream, King stared out the window of the hotel smoking a cigarette and forming the rough outline of his next novel, The Shining, which would become his first bestseller. While the story may have made the hotel famous, it is not the first story of paranormal activity. One story even involves the same room the King stayed in, room 217, in July of 1911. Stanley himself installed glass lanterns in each room. Perhaps due to his lack of professional experience, a gas leak occurred in room 217. When Elizabeth Wilson, the hotel's head chambermaid, entered the room holding a lit candle, it set off a massive explosion. Amazingly, Wilson survived, and after a 2-year coma, went back to work at the hotel until her death in 1950. Wilson's spirit is said to haunt room 217. Unlike the other ghosts who scare guests, Wilson's spirit seems to carry on with the work she had done while she was alive. Guests of the room would awaken to a clean room, their clothes now folded, even their suitcases were organized. Staying in America, we'll travel to a city in Massachusetts called Fall River. Here you will find the house of one of America's most famous killers, Lizzie Borden, who killed her father Andrew and stepmother Abby with an axe. In 1892, the house was occupied by the Borden family, consisting of Andrew, Abby, Lizzie, and Emma Borden. After her father married Abby, Lizzie only referred to her now stepmother as Mrs. Borden, and it was thought that the two did not have a good relationship. In the months leading up to the murders, there were talks of tension in the house between the girls and their father. Andrew had been gifting real estate properties to members of Abby's family, prompting Lizzie and Emma to demand their own property. They bought the house that they had lived in until their mother's death for only $1, or $35 in today's money, and then later sold the house back to their father for $5,000. In 2025, this would come to just over $175,000. A pretty nice turnaround for the girls. On August 4th, 1892, Andrew left for his morning walk, and Abby went upstairs to the guest room to make the bed as they had a visitor. At some point, Lizzie Borden grabbed an axe and attacked Abby in the guest room. The nursery rhyme about Lizzie states that she gave her mother 40 whacks, but in reality, she struck Abby around 18 or 19 times with the axe. Andrew later returned home from his walk and went to the sitting room, perhaps to sleep. Lizzie then took the axe and struck him around 10 times. Lizzie was convicted and then later acquitted of the murders. She stayed in Fall River until she died. The full story of the murders and investigation are famous in the United States, but we'll save the rest of the details for another video. The house is now said to be haunted by the spirits of the Borden family, including Lizzie herself, as well as the ghosts of 2 children who had been murdered in the neighboring house in 1848. Andrew has been reported to punch people in the backs, perhaps unhappy with them in his home. Children's laughter is heard, and ghosts are caught on camera. And strangely, every couple of months the fire alarm goes off for no reason. That's not strange, one may think. Fire alarms malfunction all the time. That may be true, but what is interesting about these particular instances is that the fire alarm always goes off at 3 a.m., the witching hour. 3 a.m. is thought to be the time when ghosts are most active and the veil between the living and the dead is the thinnest. Coincidence? Maybe, but it could also be the work of one of the house's resident spirits. The Lizzie Borden house is now an inn and museum that invites people to stay in the 6 old rooms, including the room where Abby was murdered. They offer house tours during the day, ghost tours in the evening, and ghost hunts during the night. You can even buy a bobblehead of Lizzie holding an axe. This is a must for those who love ghosts in American history. What is your favorite haunted hotel story? Have you been to any of the places in this video? Comment down below. This is Melissa After Midnight, and this was only a fraction of haunted hotels. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more spooky stories and terrifying tales. Have sweet dreams.